Have you noticed that as the years pass, peace stops being a luxury and becomes a necessity? Not everyone deserves a seat in your heart, and the older we get, the clearer that truth becomes. Buddha once said, "You are your own master." And as simple as it sounds, this truth becomes clearer the more birthdays we've lived through. Because in our later years, happiness doesn't come from having many people around. It comes from choosing the right people to keep near, the quiet ones who nourish our heart, not the ones who drain it drop by drop. Old age is not a decline, it's a refinement. It's the season when we no longer want chaos. We want clarity. We no longer want to carry other people's storms. We want to rest in our own sunlight. But here's the gentle yet honest reality. Peace in old age is not only about what we cultivate inside, it's also about what and who we stop allowing into our emotional space. Some relationships, even long-held ones, become heavy over time, demanding, guilt-filled, or quietly suffocating. And sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is to step back. In this video, we'll explore 7 types of people you should avoid in old age, not out of bitterness, but out of compassion for your own well-being. Even if they are family, even if you've known them your whole life, your peace still matters. Your heart still deserves room to breathe. You're entering a stage of life where presence is more valuable than noise, where simplicity is wiser than endurance. And you deserve a circle, no matter how small, that supports your healing, your clarity, and your gentle joy. Let's begin. As we grow older, something subtle but profound begins to shift inside us. We no longer crave noise. We crave space. We no longer want people who cling to us. We want people who stand with us. And that is why we'll get to the first part in today's video, the emotional puller, the kind of person who manipulates you not with force, but with feelings. The emotional puller rarely shows up as a villain. They often appear gentle, even helpless. They ask for small favors at first. Can you help me with this? Can you do that for me? And you say yes because you are kind, because your heart is soft, because helping feels natural. But over time, their small favors quietly become expectations, then obligations, and eventually, emotional chains. The Buddha taught that suffering often begins when we cannot see clearly. Manipulators thrive in that fog. They do not control you with strength. They control you by tugging at the invisible threads of guilt, duty, and pity. They say things like, "Only you can help me. I thought you cared. I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." And before you even realize it, your peace begins to shrink. Your days feel heavier. Your energy is drained not by work, but by someone else's constant pull on your heart. Old age was never meant to be spent in emotional exhaustion. It was meant to be a return to softness, to clarity, to a gentle kind of freedom. If you have ever felt this subtle pressure, remember this. Buddhist wisdom teaches that setting boundaries is not an act of rejection. It is an act of compassion. Compassion for yourself, because you deserve rest. Compassion for the other person, because if you continue enabling harmful behavior, you keep them trapped in their habits. Think of your heart like a small garden. If one vine grows wild and clings to everything, eventually the entire garden suffocates. Pulling the vine back is not cruelty. It is protection. It allows everything else, your joy, your clarity, your health, to breathe again. In the modern world where emotional manipulation is often subtle, discernment becomes a spiritual practice. Before agreeing to anything, pause for a moment and ask yourself, does this request bring harmony into my life or tension? Am I helping out of love or out of guilt? What would kindness toward myself look like right now? These questions are not selfish. They are sacred. They help you choose peace over pressure, awareness over habit. Learning to say no gently is a skill, one that becomes more important as we age. You can say, "I'm not able to help this time. I need to take care of my own energy first. I trust that you will handle this." You do not need to explain your entire life. You do not need to apologize for protecting your peace. Sometimes a quiet, firm no is the deepest expression of self-respect. And here is a truth many people only discover late in life. Saying no does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values your time, your peace, and your remaining years. When you step back from emotional pullers, you reclaim your inner space, the space where joy can return, where the mind can settle, where the heart can simply be. You have earned this calm. Let no one, especially those who manipulate your kindness, take it from you. When we gently create distance from the emotional manipulators in our lives, something shifts within us. It's like stepping out of a crowded room and suddenly realizing how quiet the world can be. That clarity naturally leads us to recognize another kind of presence that can quietly drain our spirit in later life. And now we move gracefully into the next part of today's video, the self-focused drifter. The person who lives so deeply inside their own bubble that they forget others even exist. This type of person doesn't necessarily mean harm. They don't shout, they don't blame, and they don't manipulate, but their presence carries a soft, constant ache because they never truly meet you. Conversations with them feel like walking into a room where all the chairs are taken. There's simply no place for your voice to sit. You may know this person well. They talk endlessly about their struggles, their memories, their victories, their frustrations. You can listen for 10, 15, 20 minutes and still realize they haven't asked you a single question. And when you try to share something, they interrupt, redirect, or simply wait for their turn to speak again. They don't see your story. They don't hear your heart. And for someone in their later years, that can be deeply painful. Because aging is a sacred season, a time when our stories carry weight, when our memories hold wisdom, when every chapter of our past deserves space to be spoken aloud. As the body slows, the soul becomes fuller. We don't need applause, but we long for presence, a gentle human acknowledgement that our life has mattered. Being around someone chronically self-absorbed can feel like planting seeds in dry soil. No matter how much you offer, nothing grows, and slowly you start shrinking in their presence. You begin to feel invisible in your own life. Buddhist mindfulness reminds us of a simple truth. Where attention goes, life flourishes. When someone never gives you their attention, your connection withers, no matter how long you've known them. So how do we deal with the self-focused drifter? The first step is gentle but firm grounding. When they monopolize the conversation, bring yourself back by saying, calmly and kindly, "I'd like to finish my story," or "Let me share something too." You're not demanding. You're simply reminding them that you exist. Sometimes this works. Sometimes it doesn't. Because some people don't lack awareness. They lack capacity. They are so used to being the center of their own universe that they can't step out of it. And that's when we must choose peace over pleasing. Limit your time. Protect your energy. No matter your age, you deserve relationships where your inner world is welcomed, not ignored. And here lies the deeper Buddhist teaching. You are worthy of being heard. Your stories are not leftovers. They are lanterns, us carrying the light of everything you've lived through. Only share them with those who can hold them with care. As you grow older, companionship changes shape. It becomes less about excitement and more about resonance. The quiet joy of being seen and valued. You don't need many people. You just need the right ones. So if someone consistently turns every conversation into a reflection of themselves, it is not unkind to step back. It is an act of wisdom. It is the art of choosing where your heart can breathe. Protect your presence. Choose the listeners who truly listen. Honor those who honor your inner world. Because in this stage of life, peace is not a luxury. It is your home. And you deserve to live in it fully. As we learn to protect our energy from the self-focused drifters in our lives, a gentle awareness begins to bloom. The quieter we become within, the more clearly we can sense subtle energies around us, like the faint ripples of wind across a still pond. And from that clarity, we begin to recognize another presence that can quietly erode our peace in old age. So now we arrive at the next part of today's video. The persistent critic. The kind of person whose words are wrapped in concern, but carry an invisible weight that chips away at your self-worth. The critic doesn't need to raise their voice to be heard. They speak softly, even kindly at times. "You really should," or "Have you considered?" Yet beneath the politeness lies judgment. Each phrase is a small arrow, piercing not your body but the quiet chambers of your heart. At first, the sting is subtle. Over months and years, however, these repeated critiques can erode confidence, leaving a whisper of doubt where certainty once resided. For someone in the later chapters of life, this can feel especially heavy. After decades of learning, growing, and nurturing your soul, you deserve space to thrive, not to be measured constantly against someone else's lens. Your choices, your rhythms, and your experiences carry their own wisdom. Yet the persistent critic sees only flaws, not the depth behind your actions. Buddhist teachings offer a gentle refuge in such moments. The Buddha reminds us that words only wound when we allow them to penetrate our hearts. In other words, we possess the power to create a protective boundary, an inner sanctuary where critiques bounce off without lodging pain. It's not denial of reality, it's mindful discernment. Understanding the critic's motivation can help. Often, criticism reflects the insecurities or fears of the speaker, not your true value. Recognizing this allows you to respond with equanimity rather than defensiveness. A calm, grounded reply might be as simple as, "I appreciate your perspective, but I'm content with my choice." Such words do more than set a boundary. They reclaim your right to inner peace. Sometimes, however, words alone aren't enough. If a relationship is consistently dominated by negativity and judgment, distance becomes an act of self-care. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. Like a gardener tending to delicate flowers, you must prune interactions that stunt growth and wither joy. Imagine walking through a quiet forest where sunlight filters gently through leaves. You hear the distant murmur of voices, some critical, some not. You acknowledge them, but do not allow them to disturb your stride. This image embodies resilience, the art of moving through life without letting judgment dictate your sense of worth. As elders, our time and energy are precious. Surround yourself with those who nourish, who celebrate your strengths, and who honor your journey. Learn to release the need for approval from voices that cannot see your value. This is not pride, it is the wisdom of self-respect, the cultivation of inner harmony that allows your spirit to flourish. Ultimately, the lesson is clear. Your worth is inherent. It is not measured by the critiques or standards of others. Each word from a critic is only a reflection of their own journey, and it need not define yours. By practicing mindfulness, responding with calm awareness, and establishing boundaries when necessary, you can protect your peace while still showing compassion to others. Life in later years is meant for reflection, joy, and serenity, not for living in the shadow of constant judgment. By understanding the persistent critic, we reclaim our voice, our confidence, and most importantly, our peace. In doing so, we create space for relationships that uplift, environments that nurture, and a life where our spirit can truly rest in the quiet glow of wisdom. As we recognize the weight that persistent criticism can place on our hearts, we start to understand that not all drains on our energy come in the form of words. Sometimes, they arrive as patterns of dependency, people whose lives ripple into ours, constantly seeking support, yet rarely taking responsibility. And from this awareness, we now move to the next part of today's video. The irresponsible dependent, those who lean heavily on you emotionally, financially, or practically without taking ownership of their own journey. The irresponsible dependent can start with small requests, a favor here, a listening ear there. At first, it feels natural to help. After all, kindness is part of your nature. But over time, a pattern emerges. They make promises to change, to repay, to handle things themselves, but rarely follow through. Slowly, their chaos begins to touch your peace. You find yourself emotionally drained, sometimes financially strained, as though you're carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. In the lens of modern Zen practice, this is a gentle reminder about the art of mindful boundaries. Every individual bears their own karma, their own consequences. When we overextend ourselves to solve the problems of others, we inadvertently prevent them from learning, growing, and cultivating resilience. True compassion is not an endless well of sacrifice. It is measured, aware, and discerning. How do we navigate such relationships without abandoning empathy? First, acknowledge your limits clearly. Saying something like, "I care about you," but I'm not in a position to solve this for you, can be transformative. It communicates respect for both yourself and the other person. You are neither cold nor uncaring. You are practicing mindful compassion. Next, shift from doing to guiding. Instead of stepping in to fix, offer tools, options, or guidance that empowers them to take responsibility. Suggest financial counseling for recurring money struggles, or encourage practical steps for problem solving rather than offering repeated rescue. Each step they take themselves strengthens their capacity while preserving your own inner harmony. Imagine lighting incense at a quiet home altar, inhaling the calming fragrance as the smoke spirals upward. That gentle act becomes a metaphor for the practice we are cultivating, letting go of burdens that do not belong to us and allowing our energy to rise and circulate freely rather than being weighed down. Each boundary we set is like a fragrant smoke column, visible, present, and serene. Over time, consistent boundaries create space for joy and meaningful connection. By releasing the compulsion to fix everyone's problems, we make room for relationships that uplift rather than deplete us. Life in our later years is too precious to be spent carrying the unresolved consequences of others. We honor both our own journey and the journeys of those around us by letting them face the natural outcomes of their choices. The irresponsible dependent teaches us a profound lesson. True kindness is measured, compassionate, and mindful. It is not about how much we can give endlessly, but about giving in ways that sustain both ourselves and others. In this way, we cultivate inner peace, maintain emotional and spiritual balance, and allow our golden years to be a time of reflection, serenity, and connection rather than exhaustion. So as we step back from the cycles of dependency and rescue, we reclaim our space, our energy, and our freedom. And in doing so, we allow not only ourselves but also those around us to grow in wisdom, resilience, and self-respect. As we begin to understand the lessons of boundaries and mindful compassion with the irresponsible, it becomes clear that not all drains on our energy are loud or demanding. Sometimes they arrive quietly, masked by expectation, rather than open request. And so we move to the next part of today's video. The ungrateful heart. Those who receive your kindness without acknowledgement, complain when offered help, or remain silent when you yourself are in need. The ungrateful heart is subtle but powerful. You may spend hours preparing a thoughtful meal, offering support during difficult times, or giving your time to help someone navigate a challenge. At first, you do this out of genuine care, expecting nothing in return. Just as Buddhist teachings advise, giving without attachment. Yet over time, a pattern emerges. Complaints overshadow gratitude, silence follows your own moments of need, and your acts of kindness feel unnoticed or even dismissed. Slowly, the joy of giving begins to fade, replaced by quiet frustration or weariness. In modern Zen practice, this situation becomes an invitation to mindful discernment. While generosity should flow from the heart without expectation, it is also important to recognize when your kindness is being taken for granted. True compassion does not mean allowing your energy and spirit to be depleted. Rather, it is about redirecting your actions in ways that honor both yourself and the natural law of cause and effect in life. One practical approach is to evaluate the relationships in your life. Ask yourself, is this connection built on mutual respect, or am I being treated as a convenience? If your generosity has become a perceived duty rather than a genuine exchange, it may be time to shift your focus. Consider channeling your care toward those who value it. Community work, volunteering, or supporting causes where gratitude and acknowledgement are naturally present. Here, your heart is nurtured, and the cycle of giving is renewed with joy rather than exhaustion. Imagine planting seeds in a garden, knowing that not every seed will bloom in your lifetime. You water them, care for the soil, and provide light. Some seeds sprout, some do not, and yet your effort remains meaningful. Similarly, offering kindness to those who can receive it fully is like tending the fertile soil of your own life and spirit. Your energy blossoms, nourishes others, and remains unburdened by expectation or lack of acknowledgement. By setting gentle but firm boundaries, we protect the joy inherent in giving. Acts of generosity are sacred. They should replenish rather than drain, uplift rather than weigh down. The ungrateful heart reminds us that our attention and care are precious. They deserve to be directed where they can truly make a difference. Protecting your heart is not selfishness. It is wisdom. It is choosing to invest in relationships that honor your presence, celebrate your contributions, and create reciprocal warmth. As we continue this journey of reflection in our later years, we see that releasing the need to please or rescue those who cannot appreciate us creates space for serenity. We create a life where acts of kindness are met with genuine gratitude and where energy is shared with those who value and nurture it. By focusing on mindful giving, we honor our own worth, preserve emotional well-being, and cultivate a golden age filled with peace, meaning, and true connection. After reflecting on the challenges of dealing with the ungrateful, it becomes clear that some influences on our peace are less about overt demands and more about the energy they carry. Energy, after all, is contagious. And so, we move into the next part of today's video. The bearers of negativity, those who constantly complain, magnify problems, or dwell in pessimism, quietly pulling your spirit down alongside theirs. The bearers of negativity operate subtly yet powerfully. At first, it may seem like empathy, just listening to someone's troubles. But over time, patterns emerge. Every interaction is tinged with complaint. Every conversation leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or restless. In our later years, when energy becomes precious and moments of calm are treasured, being around such people is like walking through a storm with no shelter. The rain soaks your heart, leaving it heavy. Buddhist philosophy reminds us that the mind is highly influenced by the environment and the words we hear. Just as a calm lake can be disturbed by a single stone, our inner peace can be unsettled by constant exposure to negativity. It's not about judging or rejecting the person entirely. Rather, it is about preserving the clarity and stability of your own mind. Practical mindfulness strategies can help. First, recognize your own limits. Only engage when you have sufficient emotional energy. If conversations begin to spiral into complaint or pessimism, gently redirect them or create a pause. You might say, "I understand your concern, but let's also focus on what's going well." These subtle cues communicate respect without absorbing unnecessary stress. Sometimes distance becomes necessary. This doesn't mean cutting off compassion. It means choosing where to invest your energy wisely. Picture tending a delicate bonsai. Constant exposure to harsh wind or shade stunts its growth, while careful positioning in sunlight nurtures it to flourish. Similarly, surrounding yourself with voices of optimism, gratitude, and constructive dialogue allows your spirit to remain light, resilient, and clear. Remember that in modern Zen practice, mindfulness is not just sitting quietly, it's being awake to the subtle currents that influence your mind. By consciously choosing the company that uplifts rather than depletes, you protect the sanctuary of your own heart. Each interaction becomes a deliberate choice to nurture peace, maintain clarity, and cultivate joy even in small, everyday moments. Imagine an elder walking in a garden. One path is shaded with dense, dark trees, their branches heavy with moss and gloom. Another path opens to sunlight, flowers, and birdsong. The choice of which path to walk is yours. The bearers of negativity may linger in the shaded path, but your presence can remain in the light. Protecting your mental and spiritual energy is an act of compassion for yourself and for the greater environment of your life. By setting boundaries, gently steering interactions, and prioritizing uplifting connections, you create a life where peace and clarity are central. Negativity does not vanish entirely, but your response to it can be deliberate, measured, and grounded in wisdom. The bearers of negativity remind us that our golden years are too precious to surrender to habitual pessimism or constant worry. Instead, by choosing thoughtfully whom we allow near our hearts, we cultivate a sanctuary for joy, serenity, and mindful presence. After exploring the impacts of negativity in our lives, we now turn our attention to a subtle but equally draining influence: people who do not respect your boundaries. These are the ones who may intrude on your time, space, or personal choices without consideration. And so, we come to the final part of today's video: the boundary crossers. Those who overlook your needs and expect their desires to take priority over your peace. Boundary crossers often appear with good intentions, yet their actions disrupt the harmony you have cultivated over decades. Perhaps they show up unannounced, ask for favors despite knowing you are busy, or insist on giving advice about matters that are yours to decide. It's not always malicious, but it is exhausting. When repeated, this behavior slowly chips away at your sense of autonomy, leaving you drained, frustrated, and less connected to your inner calm. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness is the art of being fully aware of our own limits and needs. If someone persistently disregards these limits, they inadvertently disturb your internal balance. Think of your personal boundaries like a carefully tended garden. Each plant requires attention, sunlight, and water in the right measure. If someone tramples the paths, moves the pots, or takes what is not theirs, the garden suffers. Similarly, your inner life requires space, time, and respect to flourish. How do we navigate these interactions without resentment? The first step is clarity. Identify your essential boundaries. When you need rest, your personal space, and which decisions belong to you alone. Next, communicate them with gentle firmness. You might say, "I need some quiet time right now," or "I would like to make this decision myself." Simple statements like these convey respect for both yourself and the relationship, while preventing energy from being drained unnecessarily. Yet sometimes, words alone are not enough. Some people will continue to test your limits, whether consciously or not. In those cases, reducing exposure is not selfish. It is an act of self-preservation. Choosing when and how to engage protects your mental and emotional health, reinforcing the understanding that peace is not a luxury, but a necessity. Imagine a temple courtyard surrounded by protective walls. Within, monks meditate peacefully, shielded from the noise outside. The walls are not there to punish the world, but to preserve the sanctity of the space inside. Your boundaries function in much the same way. They create a safe, sacred area where your mind can rest, your spirit can recover, and your energy can renew. By respecting and enforcing your limits, you reinforce your sense of self-respect and autonomy. You honor the wisdom that comes with age, recognizing that your golden years are meant for reflection, connection, and fulfillment, not constant compromise or exhaustion. Each time you uphold a boundary, you practice modern Zen in action, awareness, mindfulness, and compassionate protection of your inner life. In conclusion, the boundary crossers remind us that not everyone around us will understand or honor our needs. But through conscious choice, clear communication, and, when necessary, prudent distancing, we safeguard our peace, clarity, and dignity. By preserving the integrity of our personal garden, we allow the light of serenity, joy, and freedom to shine uninterrupted throughout our later years. As we come to the close of today's journey, take a moment to let the lessons settle. In our later years, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the peace of mind that comes from surrounding ourselves with the right people. Life is short, yet profound, and the company we keep shapes the quality of each passing moment. Choosing wisely, releasing those who drain our spirit, and cultivating relationships that nurture the heart is not selfish. It is an act of profound self-respect and love. Remember the Buddha's words, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This is not just a philosophical idea, it is a practical compass for living gracefully in the golden years. Every act of discernment, every boundary set, every gentle no is a meditation in motion. It is a commitment to honor your inner sanctuary and the wisdom that only decades of living can bring. Think for a moment about your own life. Which relationships lift your spirit and which quietly erode it? Can you envision releasing one small tie that no longer serves your well-being, just as a tree sheds leaves in autumn to prepare for new growth? In doing so, you create space for connection, for joy, and for serenity. You remind yourself that your heart is not a repository for obligation or stress. It is a temple to be cared for, nurtured, and honored. And here is where the power of action meets the clarity of awareness. Today, I invite you to make a promise to yourself. Take one conscious step this week to protect your peace. It might be as simple as saying no to a request that stretches you too thin, or reaching out to someone who truly appreciates your presence. Record it in the comments below. Share your intention, your small vow, and let this act ripple outwards. Your courage can inspire others, creating a ripple of mindful living far beyond your own circle. Let this be a turning point, not a fleeting thought, but a steady practice of mindfulness, self-compassion, and respectful detachment from those who disturb your inner calm. As we part today, feel the weight lift slightly from your shoulders, the air clearer in your chest, and the quiet hum of your own heart guiding you. The journey does not end here. It continues in every choice, every conversation, and every mindful moment that honors your dignity, your serenity, and your freedom. And in our next video, we will explore practical rituals for cultivating joy and balance in your golden years. A continuation of this journey that will equip you with daily practices to fortify your peace and nurture the heart. So take this moment now, breathe, reflect, and step forward intentionally. Your serenity is waiting, your life is waiting,